Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Giles, and I am a Louisiana Nurses Political Action Committee Secretary and Treasurer. LANPAC is conducting interviews with candidates for our state legislature. We want to learn more about where the candidates stand on issues important to nurses and the health and welfare of our citizens. LANPAC solicited input from the nurses in our state, and then the LANPAC board finalized questions from the top issues submitted. These questions were sent to our candidates prior to their interview. I am delighted today to welcome Mr. Stephen Jackson, who is running for District 2 in our state legislature. Candidate Jackson, I would like to turn it over to you for brief opening remarks prior to us moving forward with the questions.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Stephen Jackson. I'm a candidate for House District 2. I do not have any prepared remarks available for me, but I will just speak from my heart. I am running for state representative because I believe that our legislature plays an important role in the lives of many individuals, from setting policy to appropriating budgets and making sure that our most vulnerable citizens are taken care of. And so I come from an approach that we have to do much better with regard to our human infrastructure, making sure that we're investing in the lives of people, making sure that we are providing safe, quality, and affordable housing, making sure that we are continuing to expand and have and give individuals access to healthcare, high quality healthcare. In my district, there are at least 3 hospitals, 2 systems, and 3 hospitals. And I want to make sure that Northwest Louisiana and the state as a whole, we're doing right by our citizens when it comes to healthcare, high quality, affordable healthcare. I believe that we also have to invest in pre-K 12 and making sure that we're giving students and parents and families the opportunity to get a jump start on their education and careers. I'm a big proponent of universal pre-K, and I'm also a proponent of making college more affordable. I just believe that if we invest in things that make people better, our economies will become better. Our neighborhoods will become better. My belief is that individuals are products of their environments. And if you are living in unsafe environments, unclean environments, you can't manage your health care, you're living from paycheck to paycheck, those individuals tend to be thrown to the lowest part of our economic society. And so what we have to do is we have to make sure that we're wrapping services around them. We have to make sure that we're fighting back social determinants of health and make sure that individuals have access to services. Everybody has a priority, but I just believe that our highest priority has to be the people who live here in Louisiana. And if we don't invest in people, people will vote with their feet. Those who can get out will get out. Those who cannot get out, it costs the system more to have to take care of individuals who can't do for themselves. And so our job should be to raise everybody up, to raise the standard, raise the quality of life for all individuals, regardless of your race, regardless of your sex, regardless of your economic status. We should be there to serve people at their most vulnerable need at a time of need. And so if elected, my philosophy will be to make sure that we have a people-centered policy in every vote that I take, in every issue or stance that I have to make. It has to center around what is going to be the best for people, families, and our communities. And so with that, I would appreciate you all support, and I'm open to questions. I tell people I don't get married to a particular situation because you have to have an open mind about what we're doing. But you also have to have a set of principles. I'll say this and I'll close. My mother worked for 40 years as an educator in the public school system, and I watched her struggle from paycheck to paycheck. And every day she still woke up determined to go on, thinking that life would be better if she just continued to try. And that is what guides me. That's what grounds me in public service. And I always keep that thought in my head is how my mother was before she went on to glory. And so I'm a people-centered individual. So thank you and look forward to engaging in this dialogue with the Nurses Association.
Thank you for those remarks. And now we will begin with question one. So question one centers
And I don't
around.
mean to cut you, but if you don't, I don't know if these answers have a time limit on it, but I can filibuster. So, if I get long, just let me know.
I sure will. So question one centers around healthcare disparities.
Mhm.
Prior to COVID-19, we recognize healthcare services are not accessible on an equitable basis nationally and in Louisiana. Healthcare is only 20% of what accounts for one's health status, and the social determinants of health are the non-medical factors that influence health outcomes. What strategies do you have to assist with reducing the social determinants of health impact on the citizens of Louisiana?
Well, one of the biggest things that I think we must do is we cannot roll back Medicaid expansion. That has been tremendous in helping individuals get access to care. But then what I think we can do is we can look at what services the MCOs are providing to make sure that they are hitting and helping us with those social determinants of health, access to transportation, food insecurity, and things of that nature. Making sure that they are doing their part. I know one of the MCOs does the food stamp match, the SNAP match program. I think that's an awesome thing because you have individuals who can go in and they can double up what they're buying with fresh fruits and produce. And so that would be one of the things that I would make sure that we're doing is not only keeping Medicaid, not just keeping Medicaid on the books, but making sure we're actually funding LDH at a proper status, making sure that we're not trying to undermine the Medicaid program. I think what we do is we get too involved in these headlines or these audits that say that there's fraud, waste, and abuse. I'm not saying that we should turn a blind eye to it, but what I believe is if you look at every audit that comes out with every program, you'll see some efficiencies that can be maintained in all of them. But we're not advocating to get rid of those programs. And so I want to make sure that we keep Medicaid expansion on the book and that we're adequately funding them. I think we can do more around maternal health. I think some of the things that were done in the legislature in the last year or two around doula services, making sure that that's covered under Medicaid program, under the Medicaid program, making sure that we're supporting healthy births. Again, I believe that universal pre-K, early start, and these things, some of these things will require what's called delayed gratification. There's not going to be immediate results from them, but we know long term it sets us up on a path toward a better, it sets those families up on a path of better prosperity, breaking generational cycles. And so the mold has to be broke somewhere, and why not start breaking that mold now? And so those are just some things that come off the top of my head. I think we can work with local municipalities to make sure that their transit systems are being sufficiently funded because transportation tends to be a need, particularly in our rural areas. Transportation is a huge need. And so what can we do to help support, extend that public transit, whether it's on-demand transportation, whether it's doing better. I think, the non-emergency medical transportation system can be much more efficient. I think we can incentivize more providers to go into those rural areas, particularly when we're trying to give folks access to care dealing with mental behavior health, opioid addictions, and things of that nature. And so those are just a couple of things that I think I would be willing to champion around that issue of social determinants of health.
Okay, now we will move on to question two. Question two is about the faculty shortage and education. How would you advocate for federal and state funding to support recruitment and retention of nursing faculty to reduce the nursing shortage?
Yeah, one of the things that I would like to see us do is make sure that we continue to incentivize. I see billboards now that talk about you don't have to become a travel nurse to be successful in the nursing careers. And I know that's what a lot of our faculties, that's what a lot of our institutions are up against, our medical institutions are up against, is individuals leaving. One of the things that I have been a proponent of is incentivizing the nursing profession. It may not be a cash incentive. Sometimes it doesn't always have to be a cash incentive. But I was a huge proponent of the Keys for Services program as a board member of the Louisiana Housing Corporation, and making sure that we use taxable bonds to go out to be able to give these young nurses or nurses who may be in the middle of their career but never owned a home, making sure that we can incentivize and show them that, you know, it's more to just going to work and coming home, or it's going to, because let's be honest, a lot of nurses, a lot of doctors, a lot of people who work in the medical profession, they are dealing with individuals in their most vulnerable times, and most times they're not having the best of day. And so those nurses are having to own that. And I think what we can do is we can use dollars to help get them to first-time home ownership. I believe that if you give a person a home, they become vested in that community, they become vested in that state, and that will raise their quality and their assets. I would like to see if are research dollars that we can pull down to help support our nursing schools. I know there's a school of nursing in Monroe. There's some schools of nursing here in Shreveport with LSU and Northwestern, the Grambling, and making sure that if there are federal dollars out there, that the Board of Regents can get access to incentivize individuals to continue to go into those fields, those high demand, high need fields. I would be a proponent of making sure if there are state grant dollars that we have to match to put up and draw down those federal dollars. I'd be more than supportive of doing those things. And then making sure that we are building a pipeline. I was at the Chamber of Commerce a few weeks ago, and I was having the conversation with the Committee 100 and the Chamber of Commerce and PAR and Cable. And my question was, how early is too early to start building our pipeline? Do we need to start building this pipeline a little bit at younger ages? Do we need to start talking about these pipelines in middle school as opposed to waiting to their junior or sophomore year in high school, so that we can have a strong, robust pipeline? I talked to elementary school teachers, and some of them right now, they don't feel they're getting the curriculum that supports their students being successful by the time they get to high school. So are we really giving our youngest, most precious assets, our children, the opportunity to be successful at an early start? And then my last thing is, I would want to see us make it easier for those nurses who may have retired, or those nurses who want to come into the state to do work. I do know, I think the legislature made some modifications. If you were a physician or you were a nurse or something, and you were married to a military spouse, they made that credentialing process easier. And so I would like to see how we can, you know, are there ways that we can streamline that process more to make it easier for individuals to either come back into the field, or make it easier for those who are transitioning from one state to another or one career to another to be able to transition into the nursing career.
Okay, question 3 talks about safety and violence. It is a two-part question.
Okay.
I will begin with the first part of that question. Gun violence continues to roar through our communities. Schools, houses of worship, shopping malls, grocery stores, outdoor gatherings, and etc. What factors do you see as critical to bringing an end to these senseless acts? And do you have a strategy to address this problem?
Well, I think, you know, we're all dealing with this issue. I currently, as a Caddo Parish Commissioner, I chair our Juvenile Services Committee. And just yesterday, I was at our sort of coordinating criminal justice committee, where there's the district attorney's office, there's the sheriff's office, there's Shreveport Police, there's the head of school security, there's our juvenile services division. We all sit around the table and we talk about we talk about these issues, particularly around juvenile crime. The reality is that our offenders with guns are becoming what we see the data shows that the offenders are becoming younger and younger. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that we do is that we enact gun safety laws, one that does preserve individuals' federal due process and constitutional rights. I'm not here to take anybody's guns, but I want to make sure that we have common sense gun safety laws. I think one of the things that they did was they provided a tax credit for individuals who purchased gun safety locks in this last session. Because if you talk to local police departments and local sheriff departments, most of the guns that are being used are weapons that are being stolen. I have a friend who works with Shreveport police. He told me they can look at data and tell you what kind of summer it's going to be based on the number of guns that they have reported stolen in the fall and winter. And so they know it's going to be a chaotic summer if they have in January, they received a lot of calls for stolen weapons. And so we have to do things to make sure that individuals are storing their guns safely. The other thing I want to make sure that we do is we expand the community behavioral health model. Make sure that we increase access to mental behavioral health and suicide prevention programs. Here in Caddo, we have a proposition on our ballot where we're going to try to fund community mental behavior health. We're going to try to fund workforce development. But the original proposal that came out of our Citizens Advisory Committee was simply, we just want to build a bigger jail. And my response to them was, no, as the chairman of this committee, we're not just going to build a bigger jail, because if locking folks up was the answer, we would have solved that problem by now. What I think we have to do is we have to make sure that we have the wraparound services, the coordinated care services around these students and their families, so that they can get the mental behavior health services that they need, and that we can get the violence intervention that is needed. And then I want to make sure that we provide our local school systems with the resources that they need to make sure that our schools are safe. I hate and I cringe when I see our school system kind of arguing back and forth with local police departments, local sheriff departments about, are we going to provide X amount of SROs, school resource officers for schools? If there's a way, if there's funding, because all of this requires funding. And so I can champion a cause, but we got to find resources to do these. And I think, there are resources out there. We have to just find what is our priorities going to be. But making sure that, one, the access points to schools are shut off. I remember in high school, the high school I went to, it was pretty open. You could just walk onto campus from several access points. We need to make sure that we, whether it's with the state fire marshal, the state police, Bessie, whatever coordinated group of individuals, we need to make sure that, one, there's only one access or there's a monitored access point. If you're going to have multiple access points, it needs to be monitored, it needs to be secured, and you need to have permission to get onto campus, not just walk onto the campus. And so making sure that also that those school resource officers and those school security guards are post-certified. They should be able to be able to make an arrest. I think you can ask your local sheriffs to deputize those school security guards, send them through an academy, but making sure that they have the mental and physical fitness and competencies to be able to stop situations as they happen right there on the campus, whether it's an active shooter situation or just violence that's escalating on campus. So.
All right. So the second part of that question is, rapid fentanyl test strips can be used to determine if drugs have been mixed or cut with fentanyl. With important information about fentanyl, healthcare providers can take steps to reduce the community risk of overdose. How would you support legislation to make rapid fentanyl test strips more readily available?
Yes, I think similar to what we have done with the community needle exchange program, as we talk about because at first it was very controversial. among the AIDS community and the hepatitis community is making sure that we have these strips available. Again, it's all about access, making sure that we are removing barriers to access. The other thing we can do, and I know there was legislation that decriminalized and make sure that we decriminalize the test strips. And working with our health units, our local health units, our offices of public health, OPH, to go in and have these, whether it's at our community centers, because we know where these drugs are being, or this proliferation of drugs are. We can have these available. We have to get rid of the stigma that's been out there. The clean needle exchange has worked very well in Shreveport when we implemented it, but there was this fear of it. But there can be safe access points in the community where we can provide these strips, where they're monitored, whether it's your office of public health, whether it's your neighborhood community center. We have to be able to get the access and remove the barriers to access to those strips. Because they can be life-saving. But I do want to make sure that we continue efforts to decriminalize those test strips. And I believe the legislature has taken steps in the last session or session before last to decriminalize those test strips.
Okay, question 4. Question 4 is about access to care. Are you supportive of actions to remove arbitrary barriers that prevent all healthcare practitioners, including advanced practice registered nurses, from practicing to the full extent of their education, licensure, and training?
Yes, I do. On the surface, I do. I do. You know, if there's some other issues that are out there that I'm not aware of, I'm happy to learn about it, learn more about it. But on the surface, yes, I do think I would support, and I can support. Would be don't have a problem supporting that. Whatever barriers that we can remove, as I said in one of my other questions, to help create more practitioners in the field. We already have a shortage out there. And so whatever barriers we can move, but I want to make sure that we're not watering down our standards. And so there has to be balance in making sure that we provide this access to care, make sure that we equip our workforce, but do it in a way that provides competency and do it in a way that provides quality outcomes. And so, yes, I would support.
So our last 2 questions are general questions.
Okay.
So the first of these last 2 questions is, what are your legislative priorities?
Okay. My legislative priorities, as I said, first, making sure that we keep the Medicaid expansion in place, and not only keep the Medicaid expansion, but make sure that we're adequately funding it. We know that Medicaid expansion has saved lives. But what I also would like to see us do with Medicaid is make sure that we partner and make sure that our MCOs are doing a good job at having community navigators. Health literacy is difficult. I've worked in the healthcare field with the FQHC before, and one of the things I often have sometimes understanding some of the healthcare stuff that's out there. And so when we leave individuals, if you have somebody who's dealing with cancer, or you have somebody that's dealing with just a chronic disease, they need to know how to navigate that process. And I'd like to see us strengthen that with our community health navigators. I believe in a priority of mine is making sure that we raise our teacher pay in a permanent way, not just provide stipends, but making sure that we do it in a cost-effective way and providing stipends. One of the things that I think can ease that is that as we've seen prices go up, so has the tax revenue. Some of the school districts, or most of the school districts, I know the one that I live in, they collect a portion of a sales tax. And a portion of their sales tax has gone up because the price of goods have gone up. That's not the tax, the additional tax or anything. That's just due to the percentage that they receive off the total price of it. And so making sure that the state and the local school boards can possibly work together. I believe it's the fire departments that get a supplemental pay, or it may be police and fire that get supplemental pay. The cities or the municipalities and the state they work together to provide that supplemental pay. So we could do the same for teachers, I believe. I would also like to create an affordable housing tax credit. We have a state housing trust fund right now that has no permanent source of revenue. I do believe that one, we should look to find a permanent source of revenue, whether it's impact fees, whether it's development fees, something, or allow local municipalities to assess their own fees to fund the housing trust fund. But I believe that safe, quality, affordable housing stabilizes families. It also stabilizes communities, and it supports economic development. Businesses want to follow the rooftops. And so I think having that affordable housing component there, and then having an affordable housing tax credit that can incentivize on top of our annual 9% QAP that the Louisiana Housing Corporation does, incentivizing that 9% credit that's out there. If we don't have a bunch of natural disasters, then we don't have dollars to do housing. And what I don't want to see us doing is, as a state, we're sitting waiting and praying on a natural disaster to come wipe out a region of the state just to get housing dollars. That shouldn't be the case. And so a tax credit, and we can put a cap on that credit, and we can look at it at a certain period of time and come back and reevaluate it. But I'd like to see us do that. I'd like to see us do more with regard to investing in pre-K, universal pre-K. I know the CCAP list now has about 3,000 some students and families waiting to get into the CCAP program. Again, if we can get students started on the educational journey earlier, those families are going to be better off, and it's going to break a lot of generational cycles. With the COVID dollars, I know the state was able to do some things and make some gains, but I do believe in this last session, they pared some of it back in anticipation of some dollars being left out. But let's look at some of our other programs that are out there to see what can we do to make universal pre-K affordable. Another priority of mine is making sure that we do not go back to a point where we're cutting higher education and healthcare. That is an absolute must that we have to do. I know a lot of people, and there's a lot of folks who don't like that additional sales tax. I think sales taxes are regressive, but I do think that there has been some, I guess, some easing of that. I think people have sort of eased their ways into it. And I'm not here to advocate for keeping it or repealing it or whatever, but what I am for is I'm for doing things that do not require us to cut higher education and healthcare like we were doing prior to 2016. That's unacceptable. And then I want to make sure that we support economic development. I think if we take care of people, if we clean up our communities, if we have safe environments and communities to live in, and we raise the standard of higher education and K-12 education from our teachers to our students, and preserve healthcare and Medicaid for our citizens, I think businesses will want to come here with high quality jobs to put people to work. And I think all of that stuff plays a role in economic development. And so making sure that we're recruiting high quality jobs and have a skilled workforce to put people to work.
Okay, our last question. Why should the Louisiana nursing community support you as the best candidate for this legislative seat?
Well, I have a background in healthcare. And so one of the things that you can guarantee is that, and I'm not a practitioner in healthcare, but I did work at an FQHC. I worked for a healthcare technology company. I'm employed there now. And so you'll have an ear, you'll have an advocate, you'll have someone who understands the struggles that you're having dealing with, whether it's healthcare shortages, whether it's the training, whether it's the educational component. You'll have an advocate who understands and can sympathize with what nurses are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. We have to make sure that our citizens are being taken care of. And so, as I said, I have a people-centered approach to care. I have a people-centered approach to public policy. And so to me, I want to make sure that we find realistic ways to address our workforce shortages in a very competitive environment. I want to make sure that we streamline the process to get individuals credentialed, and that we use incentives, be creative with our incentives to recruit and retain nursing talent here in our state. You shouldn't have to, it's not fair for individuals to have to go out of state just to find quality work that will compensate them well. And so I just want you to know that you'll have an advocate in the legislature who's not a nurse, but I understand what nurses are going through on a day-to-day basis. And I appreciate the work that nurses are doing in our communities, whether you're working at a large hospital system, whether you're working at a rural community hospital system, or you're working for a federally qualified hospital or a specialty hospital. You all are working with individuals in their most vulnerable times, and we should support you and appreciate you, just as we do the other entities like law enforcement who are meeting people in their most vulnerable stages. So you'll have an advocate in there.
Thank you, candidate Jackson. So at this time, I would like to give you 2 more minutes to give closing remarks.
Oh, well, I almost would like that to suffice as my closing remarks there. I believe that I am the best candidate for the Louisiana legislature. I believe in studying the positions before I take a vote, before I propose legislation. I believe in talking to people. I believe in getting consensus. I'm not somebody who just likes to beat my fist on the table. If it makes sense, let's do it. My philosophy is, if it's not broke, don't break it. And so, but if there are some things that need to be fixed, let's sit down, let's talk, and let's figure out how we can drive to a conclusion that works for everybody. How can we all get up from the table saying this will work for our community? And so I have a passion for this work. As I said, I'm grounded in the things that my mother taught me before she passed away. I believe those individuals who live as United Way has identified them as ALICE, asset limited, income constrained and employed. The ALICE community, they get up, they go to work 40+ hours a week and still can't make ends meet. And I just think that we have to be concerned about those individuals and making sure that we're improving the quality and standard of life for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your responses with us today. I want to wish you good luck with your campaign and have a great rest of your day.
Yes. Is there is there any? So is this like an endorsement piece? How does this go from this point?